Sharpening a spoon hook, also known as a hook knife or a curved knife. It can be daunting for a lot of new carvers, and a lot of people who are interested in spoon carving are really curious about how you sharpen a specialized tool such as this. So I'm going to take you through how I do it. I really like the leather sheath that it came with. This is a Hans Karlsson right-handed hook knife. I believe it's one of his older models, as his newer ones look slightly different. They have a wider blade. With all that being said, I really like this hook knife. I love the shape of it, I love the size of it, and I'm really looking forward to giving it a nice fresh edge. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So now I'll take you through the equipment that I use. This is a black permanent marker. I use it to black out the inside of the hook knife so that I know I'm making even passings. I'll show you how that works. This is a plastic dowel. I bought it from Hewn Hone. It's made of a specialized plastic which makes it easier to remove the sticky backed wet dry sandpaper. This is an ash dowel, and I use it for the honing compound so that I can strop the hooks in between uses and while I'm sharpening. This metal ruler comes in handy for when I'm cutting my wet dry sandpaper to the appropriate sizes, and I use this retractable utility knife to make those cuts. I use this little wooden block to elevate the hook as I make my passes with my dowel. Makes it a lot easier to make the passes so I'm not bumping into the table. I have plenty of space, as you can see in this quick little demonstration. So this is an assortment of sticky backed wet dry sandpaper. Having the sticky backed stuff is extremely valuable, as the grit doesn't move around when I'm making my passes. So I'll be taking it through, all the ones that I have: 800, 1200, 2000, 3000, 5000, and 7000. So it should have a really nice polish by the time I'm done. These are my leather strops. I made them a few years ago. They're beat up, but they get the job done. And this one's already caked with some fine honing compound from Hewn Hone. This is the Brillo pad, the steel wool that I use to clean it. I'll show you how that works later on. So this is the really nice, extra fine honing compound. And I just want to mention that, the dowels, the honing compound, I got those from Hewn Hone. I'll put the link in my bio. Those guys are really great. All that aside, it's time to begin sharpening. First thing I'm going to do is just clean off the blade real quick. This is a baby wipe, and they're great to have around because your hands will get dirty as you sharpen, and they're really useful just for a quick little clean of your hands and of the blade as you go. So here's how I black out the bevel. Now I won't be blacking out the entire surface. I'm only going to add a line to the front near the blade and to the back. Just a single line in front and a single line in back. So the reason for this, and it's a very important reason, it's so that when I'm making my passes with my dowel and my wet dry sandpaper, I'll know that I'm keeping it as level as possible. See, if I make my pass and I'm only removing the marker, off the front of the knife and not the back, then my passes aren't even, and I'll round off the inside of it, which is a bad thing because that's a very hard thing to correct. So I'll start with 800 just to remove the back of this and put it onto the dowel. Very awkwardly, mind you. I like to apply it this way. It's a lot easier for me. Keeps things nice and even, nice and flat. Alright. with the grit on, I'll hold the hook knife in an underhand fashion like this, and I'll start at the top of the dowel and just push forward, rotating slightly. And the weight of it will naturally cause the hook knife handle to raise up into the air. Now, about halfway through this session, I remembered some really great advice from a hook knife maker. He stated you don't have to grip the handle hard. You leave it loose in your hand. You're doing most of the work with the dowel itself, and it'll auto level itself and adhere to the surface of the dowel, and that really is the best way to do it. If you're forcing it too much, you're trying to find where it needs to be, well, let the hook knife tell you where it needs to be. That's the best way to go. Now, I don't always remember that really great advice, but it's something you, the listener, should definitely keep in mind whenever you're sharpening a hook knife. You know, doing things right off the bat with a brand new hook ensures that you and that hook will have a really great relationship. Because rounding off the inside of it is not good. You don't want to alter the hook too much. You want to keep it how the blacksmith made it. That'll ensure that it does excellent quality cuts for you through wood, and that it lasts a really long time. Now look at the inside of the hook here. Notice the scratch patterns. Scratch patterns are very important for when you're sharpening. You need to have even scratch patterns the entire time. Follow those scratch patterns. Don't go one way and then the other, creating different scratch patterns. Keeping even and consistent scratch patterns in the surface will make for a much cleaner sharpen by the end of it. So that's it for the 800 grit. What I do in between is a quick strop to remove any burr. The burr, how do I explain a burr? I'm sure many of you know what a burr is, but when the burr is raised, it's how you know that it's truly sharp, because you've removed enough material. There, that was my best go at explaining that. Here I'm just cleaning off the honing compound, making a big old mess. Probably shouldn't have done this on the mat, but who cares? With editing magic, it's like it never happened. And now a fresh coat with the extra fine honing compound. This stuff is great. I love it and I recommend it to anyone. So I don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing this just to remove the burr. You'll notice that it turns the surface black, and that's a good thing. That means it's doing its job. Admittedly, I'm making probably too many passes here, but it doesn't really matter. I don't need to be making so many passes because I'm just removing the wire edge. That's all I want to do here. And that's all I ever do to the outside of the hook. I only ever really sharpen the inside of it with grits, and I strop the outside. I don't want to alter the way the blacksmith has made the outside of the hook. So on to the next grit. This is 1200 Wet Dry Sandpaper, and I'm just going to continue to make my passes. You will see that I speed up a lot of these clips, and I've edited out a lot of the bulk. It's because I just want to show you the steps, and I'm hoping this will help anyone that's interested or curious in how to better sharpen and be more confident with sharpening their hook knives. Because I know from experience that there can be a lot of anxiety and stress when it comes to sharpening these things, because sometimes you wait years just to get a hook and they cost a lot of money. When you get them, they're beautiful and they're pristine because they come straight from the blacksmith, never been used, and they're beautiful. And you just know that someday you'll have to sharpen that thing, and when you don't know how to, or you're not confident, it can be very stressful. So hopefully these videos will help with that somewhat. I remember the first hook knife that I got was from Reed Schwartz. I still have it, of course, and I still use it all the time. It's a Sanderson hook. And when I first got it from him, it was beautiful. Like, polished and pristine. And I knew that I'd have to sharpen that thing one day, and you know, I didn't know what I was doing when I sharpened it the first few times, and I cringe at how I treated that thing, just trying to get it sharp. And taking the proper steps straight off the get-go with a hook knife like that is definitely the way to go. So following these practices, it's hard to go wrong. It's hard to make the wrong steps doing this way, because you're removing material off the inside, you're keeping things as flat as possible, and you're not taking any grit to the outside. So that, I think, is the best way to go. Now you will see that I start to speed these clips up more and more in between and edit more material out, just because I want to show you the steps and not take you through the live feed of me sharpening the hook, because this one needed quite a bit of work, and to do that in real time, it'd be a very long video, and there's no need to subject you to the entire length of the video. So you'll see these cuts start to get faster and faster as we go. So as I was talking previously, that was the 2000 grit, and I'm about to take it to the 3000 grit. So for the 3000, the 5000, and the 7000, I'm using these tiny little offcuts of the wet dry. There's no need to throw those out, and I make really good use of them, especially in cases like this, because at this stage with the 3000 and up, it's not sharpening, it's not removing a lot of material, it's just polishing. So a little spot like that, just a little nub of wet dry sandpaper at the 3000 and up, that's all I need, especially with this adhesive backed stuff. Super efficient. See, if I didn't have the adhesive backed stuff, I'd have to find a way to, you know, glue that to a dowel. Or actually, if you don't have adhesive backed stuff, you can use a lot of it, wrap it around the dowel, and then just tighten it with elastic bands or your, you know, whatever hair elastics you have lying around. So just to elaborate on that a bit, you'd use a lot more grit than what you see here, and you'd wrap the top and the bottom to keep it steady. So as you can see, that the inside of the blade is getting quite a good polish now. So we interrupt this YouTube for a tornado warning. We get those a lot where I live, and the tornado has yet to come. I know it sounds weird to some, but I'd love to see a tornado someday. Hopefully it doesn't harm anyone or ruin any houses, but I just think it'd be amazing to see a tornado. I have yet to actually see one though. So that was the final grit. As you can see from those scratch patterns, they flow nicely from the back to the front, and it's got a really nice polish on it now. Some people go even higher, up to 10K even. I don't have 10K, but you know, at that point it's crazy. You get such a nice mirror polish in it. So right now I'm caking on the fine honing compound for one last good stropping, and I'm going to really strop the outside and do it well, take my time with it. Usually about 26 passes is good enough. I don't keep track lately at all, I just strop. It's probably better to count as you go, and I do sometimes, but I don't most of the time. So the inside, you can just put it on any old dowel that is wide enough and give the inside a good stropping with the fine honing compound. You can use Sharpie at that stage too, and it really does help to make sure those passes are nice and even, but I hardly ever do it at that stage. So I gave it a good wipe before taking it to my dirty leather strop, because if you had a clean strop, you wouldn't want to dirty it up, but mine's already pretty dirty, so I don't care. And here's one I didn't show you. It's just a piece of leather that I sewed up very crudely and fit over this old dowel so that I can give the inside of the hook a really good final leather stropping to get a really good polish and just to remove any final amounts of burr. Now, in hindsight, after the video has been filmed, I know the view that you're getting, the top down, you're getting mostly the back of my hand. You know, that's not the best camera view for that, but it does show you how I lift the hook knife as I go. So let's take one last look at it now that it's done. And comparing with the very beginning of the video, it looks a lot different. So this was just the first serious go at sharpening it with how I sharpen. And the next time I do this, it'll start to look a whole lot better, but I think it looks great. Very happy with it. So now for the sharpness test. It should glide through this paper effortlessly, not catch anywhere, and it glides through absolutely beautifully. And it's also shaving sharp. So I'm very happy with how this knife turned out, and I was very happy to be able to share my method with all of you out there, whoever's watching. And I hope that it benefits you in some way, and that you can take this knowledge if you needed it and apply it to your own spoon hook. So I oiled up the handle just to get it looking nice. It was a bit faded, so I'll get many great years of use out of this hook.